we're going to be talking about the 10 tips for podcasting. Why are we covering that? We're covering that because it's become one of the things that everybody needs to consider to do. We have what we call our intake sheet at Don Zavis Sales Consulting, and we talk about all the things that our prospects, our clients, and everyday people should be doing in this day and age. Podcast is probably one of them. We've got a podcast called Speaking of Sales, and there are good ways to do podcasts and there are bad ways to do podcasts. They're one of our no or low cost marketing angles that you can actually partake in. It doesn't take a lot of investment. It doesn't take a lot of energy. It doesn't take a lot of time, but you got to do it right. If you do it wrong, then it's a worthless task. So one of the things that we're going to be doing here is we're going to talk about, first, the number one is understand your objective. Now, when you're doing a podcast, you know, you can have multiple objectives, or you can have an objective that is actually more singular and focused. So, but you got to determine that. Like, what do you want to get out of the podcast? Do you want to get leads, a lead generation type of thing? You know, cold leads for just people that will listen and then just dial you up or get your contact information? Do you want people that are current customers as for referrals? You know, do you want to increase your brand or some other type of marketing concept to get the word out? And so it's just kind of interesting that you can also use a podcast to kind of accelerate your closing. And so when you want to accelerate your closing, then maybe you just have a guest on, and we'll get to our guest choices in a minute, but you may want to have a guest on that you're close to closing. And so you use the podcast just to get that you know, over the hump, if you will. So the first thing about podcasting, and it's really no different than any other type of marketing concept. You have to understand where you want to take it, where you want to go. You got to understand your objectives. Is it lead generation? Is it branding? Is it referrals? What is it? You know, it can be a myriad of other things as well. And so once you do that, you're really now kind of on your way to understanding what you want to get done. And that will create the cascade of what we're going to cover in points 2 through 10 here.
Now, my session is going to be on budget. Now, you people have 3 qualifying components. We've talked about this in the past. So let me share with you what a qualifying process looks like. Again, most people think you fall into 1 of 2 categories. You're a prospect or a customer. That's it. What I hear a lot is, oh, Don, you know, I lost a big one. And then we would autopsy the sale and find out you didn't lose it, you never had it. So it isn't just prospect or customer. That's too indistinct. There's actually 4, and you want to write these down. First person is a suspect. They may be possibly, depending on how the sun shines, if all the planets alive, maybe we could just do business together. Suspect number 1. Number 2 is a prospect. They move from suspect to prospect when you've determined that the products or services you provide can in actuality solve their problem. Solve their problem. Not you think they could solve their problem, but actually solve their problem. They move from a suspect, kind of maybe, possibly be able to work together, into a prospect. They go from a prospect to the number 3, a qualified prospect, when they have a compelling reason to buy. That was the session we did last session. They have the money, which is the session we're doing today. And number 3, they are entrusted with spending it. Because if they may have a compelling reason to buy, and maybe their company even has the money, but if they're not authorized to spend it, you got nothing. So they have to have the money, they have to have a compelling reason, and they have to be the decision maker. They have to be the person that can pull the trigger. That moves them from the, again, prospect to the qualified prospect when you have these 3. Now, assuming you've done everything right, and these people do in fact have these qualifying components, they will move from a qualified prospect to a sale. So again, you have 4 places that they could be, not 2. So you can gauge where you are along the area.